the meeting rooms. It uses stuff like breakout rooms. That's all technology that brings us closer together. You could even expand on technology beyond, for example, computers in the digital world, and you could put it beyond to transportation technology. Transportation technology definitely brings us closer together. Um, so you can put it either way, and but you do have to state your reasons and your evidence and connect it all back to the thesis statement and your answer to the question. And now we will go on to Lahari.
Um, yeah, thanks, Atman. So with this, we really want to be consistent. If you want to keep sharing, that works. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so with this, we really want to maintain a consistent style. The consistency is key when you're really crafting your essay because you don't want to be wavering in what you're trying to write and what point you're trying to get across. And so some tips with trying to maintain this consistent style is first to eliminate personal pronouns. So generally we do want to be in a third person environment where we're using he, she, it, they, and that really represents us being unbiased towards what point we're arguing, but we're also trying to bring our point across to a broader audience. And this really goes along with considering your audience. So eliminating those personal pronouns is something that will bring your credibility to the table and really encourage you to think outside the box and really just put it in the perspective of a greater audience. The second tip I would have is to write what you know and really be structured in your writing. So if you're writing about something that you're not too sure about, your lack of confidence can kind of come across through the essay. So you really want to write what you know and really talk about things that you know. And that's where the point about anecdotes or personal experiences came through earlier, where you can really talk about your shared experiences and that can make you even more relatable to your audience. The point about being structured in your writing, I'll get into a little bit, but what it really represents is being really organized in what point you're getting across. Having a structure will really help the reader anticipate what you're going to say next and also give them a idea of direction in your essay. The next point I would make is to use a variety of transitional vocabulary. So transitional vocabulary can take place in many different forms, like saying similarly, then, however, in addition, additionally, and really using a variety of that vocabulary shows that you're bringing a point across, but you're also letting your essay flow with itself. Whether you're starting a new paragraph or you're starting a new point or you're bringing across your thesis, it really just represents this is how I'm transitioning into what I'm going to say. And the last point I'd say is you want to really clearly state your opinion. So you don't want to have vague language or terms of certainty like maybe or might. That really doesn't give across. It's almost like you're delivering a speech. You're not going to convince people of your point if you're using words like maybe or possibly or might. So you really want to be certain in what you're saying. So going on to the next slide. So point of view really comes across here. So Nivritti talked about it earlier, but it's really important to be clear in your perspective and use a uniform point of view. So just going over point of view again, first person is really I or we when you're talking about yourself or a group of people you're involved in. Second person is you. So you may believe this, really talking to the reader directly. And third person is what we typically use, which is he, she, or they. And really this comes across in the point of just we really want to be cohesive in our essay writing. And knowing the perspective from which you want to argue your point or really make your point creates a really sound essay overall. So moving on to the next slide. So keeping organized. So we know that the NSF contest is going to be 60 minutes. How do we keep ourselves organized in these 60 minutes? My recommendation is you're going to be given the prompt about 10 minutes prior to the competition starting. You want to jot down everything you know about the topic to start. any ideas that come to mind, any words that come to mind, phrases, even articles that you may have read about this information in the past. And you can take the first 5 to 10 minutes to do this. And what it really does is helps you get in the mindset of this is the question I'm going to be thinking about for the next 60 minutes, and this is how I'm going to answer it. Next, you want to outline what you want to write about, reasons, sub-reasons, and points to make. So you can really develop themes around these ideas, and that outline is really going to be what's guiding your essay and creating that direction for your essay. And the third point is to start writing. So you want to give yourself at least 45, 50 minutes to write within the competition. Really give yourself time to articulate your thoughts. Also take breaks because your hand will get tired during these competitions. There's something to keep in mind. And then also give yourself about 5 to 10 minutes at the end to really just think about the ideas there and really read over what you wrote just in case you need to do any proofreading. So generally, this is how you can keep organized in the 60 minutes that you have. And going on to the next slide. So really the next thing you want to do is write out your arguments and really outline your 3 reasons all as one sentence. So going back to how that may look, let's think about what our thesis may be with this technology question that we are addressing. So the sample outline, so the statement of belief that really guides what you're writing about is technology pushes us further apart. If you believe this, you want to give reasons that correlate or correspond with that point for why technology pushes us further apart. And all of these reasons, as we saw earlier, really represent technology does push us further apart. There's not any language that says might or could or possibly. It's very sound in supporting that original statement of belief. And this all comes together in our thesis statement, which says technology pushes us further apart as it keeps us from spending quality time with loved ones. It can make us feel insecure or unhappy, and it can make us less active and more unhealthy. So altogether, this thesis statement really brings 3 points together, and it also gives a direction for your essay. So paragraph 1 is going to be introducing your point. Paragraph 2 will be about keeping us from spending quality time. Paragraph 3 will be about making us feel insecure and unhappy. Paragraph 4, less active, more unhealthy. And paragraph 5 is that conclusion. So really just gives you a direction for your essay, and outlining can really help you get that sound structure and know exactly how you're going to write and what you're going to write about.
So now that we've gone over how to actually write the essay with your thesis statement and all of these body paragraphs and evidence, I want to just mention some tips and tricks that'll help make your essay that bit better. So the first thing I want to say is that it's always important to know your audience. So in any sort of writing setting, whether for a competition, a college essay, or just a paper at school, it's really important to remember who your work is addressed to and who's going to be perceiving it. And that right there is what I call knowing your audience. So there's 4 main factors that are involved in knowing your audience. The first one is demographics. So you should understand your audience's age, education, and cultural background. So for example, if you're writing an essay addressing policymakers, you should probably prioritize things like empirical evidence and jargon, while one aimed at younger students might want to simplify concepts and use comparisons for easier understanding. Cultural context would also matter, so references to historical events or societal norms have to align with the reader's familiarity. Misjudging demographics would alienate readers by employing examples or assumptions that they wouldn't be able to relate with. So you should be tailoring vocabulary and references to reflect their experiences and avoid overly niche and overly generic framing. This precision in audience analysis is one of the biggest parts about elevating clarity and relevance. So the next thing that you should be considering are values and beliefs. So persuasion, could you go back to the slide? Thank you. Persuasion hinges on aligning your argument with the audience's core principles. So, for example, if you're advocating for renewable energy, that could emphasize cost savings for business leaders or ecological preservation for environmentalists. Acknowledging your reader and audience's worldviews early builds trust. And then you can use that to bridge it to your thesis. Dismissing their values would cause resistance, while integrating them fosters a more receptive audience. And this sort of ethical persuasion respects the reader's perspective while also guiding it towards your conclusions. The third thing is existing knowledge. So you should be assessing the audience's prior understanding so that you can explain what you want effectively. Experts would probably require minimal background, while lay people would need more explanation if you were talking about a niche topic. Using phrases like established in prior research to signal shared knowledge would also help you get those points across. So being precise in pacing demonstrates that you have respect for the reader's intellect and their time. The last thing is potential objections. So anticipating counter arguments would strengthen credibility because you're preempting the skepticism. So phrases like, while some argue, concede complexity while also reinforcing your position. If you ignored opposition, that would suggest oversight, but refuting it in this way proves that you're being thorough. And this tactic can also disarm hostile readers by acknowledging that their perspective has some credit. And a persuasive essay thrives not on one-sided rhetoric, but also on measured engagement with this sort of dissent. Moving on to the next slide. So what? Why is this important? Your essay isn't just words on a page. It's sort of a dialogue. You're sitting across from your reader, eye to eye, and everything you're saying is sort of a response to their silent questions and their doubts. When you tap into their identity, their age, culture, and what they already believe, you're not just talking at them, but you're talking to them. And that makes it more engaging. So moving on to the next tip. So I like to say employ the trio. So the trio that you might have heard of are ethos, pathos, and logos. So what is ethos? That's credibility. Ethos is what establishes your authority and trustworthiness as a writer. So you should begin by showcasing expertise, maybe by citing credible sources or demonstrating fairness. You want the audience to know that you've done your work and that your evidence is rigorous. Using sources to support your ideas and acknowledging counter-arguments to show intellectual honesty is what helps you sort of further this. More than just about credentials, ethos is about proving that you deserve to earn the audience's trust. Next up is pathos, or the emotional aspect of your writing. Pathos is what connects to the reader's emotions and makes your argument more relatable. So using vivid imagery, personal anecdotes, or rhetorical questions all evoke empathy in your audience. For example, instead of just stating poverty is a problem, painting a picture by saying, imagine a child skipping meals to save for school supplies would help connect to your reader and audience more emotionally. And when you use pathos, balance is key. Too much emotion feels manipulative, but too little would feel sterile. Pathos is what humanizes your argument. And the last of the trio is logos, or logic. That's the actual meat or backbone of your argument, the facts, data, and reasoning that make it irrefutable. Presenting clear evidence, structured arguments, and logical transitions are what help this. It's also important to avoid logical fallacies like hasty generalizations or strawman arguments. Logos is what ensures that your essay stands on a foundation of truth and not just passion. So bring it together. For example, if I was giving a speech about education reform, I could start with my ethos by saying, as a teacher for 10 years, I've seen how underfunding impacts classrooms. And then I could go on to employ pathos by saying, picture a student sharing a single textbook with 3 peers. And then finish that up with some logos by saying, studies show that increasing funding improves graduation rates by 20%. What you want to do is begin with ethos to build trust, weave in pathos to engage the heart, and finally anchor all of that with logos to satisfy the mind. And the last of my tips and tricks is writing the Cinderella conclusion. So the Cinderella conclusion includes 4 main parts. So the first one is circling back. A strong conclusion ties directly to the introduction, and that sort of creates a sense of closure. You want to reflect on how your essay has evolved since the opening lines. If your introduction posed a question, answer it. If it introduces a metaphor, return to it with a deeper meaning. This technique reinforces your argument's coherence and leaves the reader with a satisfying sense of resolution. Next, you want to summarize. Recap your main arguments, but avoid simply listing them out again. Instead, weave them together in a sort of takeaway. Highlight how each point supports your thesis and contributes to the bigger picture. Next, you want your call to action. Use your conclusion to underscore why your argument matters. Instead of just the specifics of your essay, shift to a more broader and universal truth. This could be a call to action, a warning, or an invitation to reflect. By sort of elevating the stakes in this way, you leave the reader with a sense of urgency or inspiration, which sort of ensures that your essay resonates beyond that final sentence. And finally, end with a bang. The last sentence of your essay should feel intentional and impactful. Instead of using generic phrases or abrupt endings, aim for a line that encapsulates your message in a way that stays with the reader. That could be a striking metaphor, a rhetorical question, or maybe just a concise statement of your thesis's broader implications. A strong final line is what ensures that your essay leaves a lasting impression. And thank you. So that's all we have.
So the presentations are complete, so we can start the question and answers. Okay. The first question I have is, how can we practice essay writing?
I think I can take this one. There are lots of practice prompts online, and also I've linked some of them to the presentation. So you can just use them and time yourself and then ask either your parents or your peers to grade your essay and let you know how you've done.
So just pick a random topic and start writing.
Yeah.
Okay. How many paragraphs are needed in an essay? 4 or 5?
It depends on the essay. A lot of these shorter persuasive essays generally have an introduction paragraph, 2 to 3 body paragraphs, each covering a different reason or a different category of reasons for why for your thesis statement, and then a conclusion. So 4 to 5 is good for like the north south essays. 4 to 5 is good. But you could have other essays, like more creative essays that are with really short paragraphs or really long paragraphs. So in general there's no answer, but in these sort of competition shorter persuasive essays, 4 to 5 is good to aim for.
The next question I have is, how do you add a personal connection to the essay without using personal pronouns? Because you said don't use personal pronouns there.
I'd say one of the easiest ways to add a personal connection, or maybe just like an emotional connection, is using imagery. So instead of using anecdotes, which would require to use like I, me, my, those personal pronouns, you could just use imagery, which is like vivid descriptions of like events that maybe you haven't experienced in first person, but it would provide an emotional connection to the audience. So that's one of the easiest ways.
Thank you. And there's a question that can we see the national winning essays to learn what vocabulary to use? Unfortunately, NorthSouth doesn't share any of those contest material with the audience. So, but there should be plenty available online for you to go through and practice, I think, right? Okay. I don't know what to make of this. How many reasons are we required to have? What do you, did you?
It kind of goes off that question of how many paragraphs to have. So generally, like 3 reasons is kind of a nice amount to have when you're going off of an argumentative essay where you have kind of your thesis statement or what you're trying to argue, and then kind of like reason number one. This is why I believe. Typically, the golden rule is 3. But depending on how you're feeling about a topic, you can have 2 or 4 and like kind of go over that amount, but 3 is a good amount to generally have because it creates that 5 paragraph essay. Um, so yeah.
Good. Uh, can you discuss some ideas of personal essays you wrote for your applications? Is there any preference on the type of topic? Um, each one of you can go ahead and say how did you go about creating your own personal essays probably for college or for other purposes. Anyone?
One personal experience that I wrote about for my college essays was um my experience with North South, because I mean I thought it showcased myself well, and it was very personal and very special to me. So mostly it was about my North South coaching journey, but I organized it in chronological order, and I put that sort of chronological order into parts. So like that would be my paragraphs, and I followed it up at the end with kind of at the beginning and end were both kind of summaries of it in slightly different words. Were both summaries of my journey and how um, I became from when I became part of the Northwest coaching program to when I've been I've coached maybe 10, 11, 12 spelling, maybe 3, 4 vocabulary and stuff like that. So
Anybody else?
One of the essays that I wrote, I think the prompt was, when was the last time you stepped out of your comfort zone, or what was the most, uh, what stood out to you most about that experience? And I discussed founding the Oregon Brain Bee here. Specifically, I said that, oh, I could have gone to like the San Francisco Brain Bee, I could have just flown there, but instead I chose to create opportunities for people in my community. So I think they definitely want you to connect back to your community and how you're supporting others that you interact with on a day-to-day basis, and not just talk about yourself. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, I guess for me, for college essays, one of the prompts that they gave was like describe an idea or a concept that you find so engaging that makes you lose track of time. And that was something where I wanted to make sure that I was conveying something that wasn't already conveyed in my application. So I actually wrote about one of my passions or hobbies, which is working out. And the fact that like the achievement from working out is something that no one can take away from me. So it's something that is just mine, and it's not like in school where you're competing and taking a test or trying to like be the best person. Like you're just doing it for yourself. Um, and so that was something where it's not necessarily something that, oh, I got first place in something or I accomplished some level of success. It was more of a personal success. And I was very like, use that imagery that I was talking about before, about like the different people like pressuring themselves to do their best and just describing the environment of the gym. So yeah, I would definitely recommend just creating that imagery and creating that experience and maybe even writing about something that's not necessarily quantifiable.
I agree. Like in my experience, I think that also one of the things that colleges really appreciate is sometimes when you write about something that's like really niche. Maybe it's not something like huge or something that like you did that's like that you find really impressive, but one of those small things that you do. So one of my prompts was, what's a favorite interest or hobby of yours and why does it bring you joy? And I wrote about 5 Minute Mysteries, which is sort of this website that I really enjoy like going into, and we solve like these mysteries with like clues and you have 5 minutes to get it. And like Lahari was saying, I included a lot of imagery, sort of tried to get the audience into my position so they could feel everything that I felt as I was writing or doing that mystery. And I feel like that's a really nice way to get colleges to connect with you as a person and understand who you are and what it is that you appreciate.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, it's very insightful. Uh, the question I have is, after we write the thesis statement in the introductory paragraph, do we state the reasons the exact same way in the supporting paragraphs too?
you can you should state the reasons in a mostly similar way, maybe not in the same exact words, but don't veer too far off what you wrote in your thesis statement. The thesis statement is supposed to be the foundation of the essay, so definitely don't use too different language, but use very just a little bit, so that just to keep it a little bit interesting and engaging. Um, then after you state your supporting reason, then you get into your evidence and then your reasoning that connects your evidence back to the thesis statement. And then once you do that once or twice, that's a body paragraph, and then do that again for your next reason.
Thank you. Um, for younger kids, like fifth grader or lower, how do we create interest in essay writing in them?
I think one of the easiest ways to just get started with essay writing as like a younger student is maybe like journaling or like writing in a diary. So I know in fifth grade, my English teacher, like once a week, we would have this thing where, we went to class and then we would write about like our favorite thing that happened that week. And it would just be like a short paragraph. It wouldn't be a big thing. And then the next Monday we would all read ours out loud and we would all compare like our favorite thing that happened that week. And I think it was a really creative and fun way of just getting to like know new vocab, like figure out how to write, just like get that writing out there. And I think that's like a really cool way of introducing it to younger students.
Yeah, I coached creative writing this past term, and I will say one of the things that really stood out to me was the art of the free write, which is literally just write about anything that you want, anything that's on your mind. And it can even be in the form of a poem, or it could be in any format that you want. But it's really just getting your pen to paper and kind of just writing down all of the thoughts that you have at one moment. And sometimes it's like better than maybe saying everything that you have out loud. It's better to put it to paper. So would definitely recommend that idea of free writing that encourages creativity as well.
Thank you. And does North South have programs that help guide high schoolers with college personal essays? I think we have a lot of coaching classes. Lahari is also coaching on creative writing, and um, Atman has been volunteering as a coach also. We have learning journey, creative writing, and also we have paid college admissions webinar series of webinars to help with you know the admissions process. So I would recommend you go through our website to the coaching section and see what is available, and also pay attention to the emails they send out whenever the new coaching class start, so you can go and register on time before it gets filled up. Um, the next question I have is, in a persuasive essays, is it okay to add a counter argument?
It is good to add a counter argument and then have a way of refuting it. So you have to, I think, I think Sai said this, but you have, it's good to show respect to the other side of the argument, to for the reader to understand that you understand that you have seen both sides of the argument, and then you have chosen your answer to the question. So it is good to have a maybe a short section where you bring up a counter argument and then refute it with logical and valid reasons.
Should the paragraphs be more formal, or is casual language acceptable?
I think it's best if you err on the side of having more formal language. Sometimes casual language might be looked down upon, so I think formal language would be best.
Okay. Should these essays be in MLA formatting? I don't know what's MLA, though.
Yeah, so MLA format is something that is typically used, I want to say in middle school and onwards. It's definitely a way to structure your essays, but it's also mainly for citations and more academic papers. In terms of NSF contests, that should not be something that's required, as it's mainly for academic papers. Like a teacher may give that on a rubric, but on the NSF rubric for what is needed to succeed in the competitions, that's not something that's being judged on.
Okay, so let me see. To to Atman's argument, if you were to add a counter argument in a persuasive essays, would we include it in our thesis or do we give it a separate paragraph?
You could don't include it in the thesis statement. You could sort of integrate it into a paragraph that already exists. So you can say, um, you can give a reason for your thesis. You can give a counter reason that's like basically kind of directly counter to what you said, and then refute that argument while supporting your the reason you're trying to provide evidence for. So do not put in a thesis statement, but integrate it into a paragraph that's already there.
Thank you. And if you have any more questions to ask, please go ahead and do. But in the meantime, I want to ask each one of you uh, just to try to convince the audience how essay writing is important and helped you out in your pursuit of school, college, public, anywhere, and why everybody should get into this essay writing mode.
I think especially as a student in America where you have to write essays to apply to college, definitely honing your essay writing skills is really beneficial. And also it helps you kind of already have a way of outlining your essay and helps you structure your thoughts better, definitely.
Um, see writing more than just in essays. Like if being able to um, organize an argument effectively uh, and on your feet like you do in the North South essay writing competition is really important. So like as an engineering student, I've seen a lot of technical writing kind of things where I have to present data in a certain way, for example. I have to present the results of a test in a certain way, for example, where a professor or in the workplace a boss can understand it quickly and effectively and can interpret what to do with it. So um there's a lot of reasons for learning how to write essays effectively that can apply in writing beyond essays and can apply to things like emails or technical writing, like I just mentioned, or stuff like that. So,
I think writing at the end of the day, it's a form of communication, and it's really important to know how to communicate with other people. So, like Othman was talking about, like I work in like computer science and math most of the time, so that's what I'm interested in. But sometimes we have to communicate with people outside of the fields, and we have to get across like all of these technical things to them. And so it's really important to know, understand other people, understand your audience, like I was talking about earlier. And you have to figure out a way in which you can write so that you both get your ideas across and you can ensure that they're understanding what you're saying. And so I find that really writing is a two-way street of communication. It's like a flow. And understanding how to write essays effectively is really important and enables your communication skills.
Yeah, definitely echoing what everyone said. I think writing as a form of expression is definitely how you get more creative and it really builds a lot of knowledge and just it's similar to reading in that you're able to just learn how to articulate your thoughts and learn how to structure your thoughts. As someone who's working in software engineering now, you may not think that writing is very important, like it is coding driven, but I've had to send so many emails to different people at different companies and just have to really articulate my thoughts in a really organized way and structured way. And the writing that I did in college, in high school, and so on and so forth just really helped build that structure for me and build that organization so I could really better communicate my thoughts to other people.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Yeah, uh, essay rating is one of the areas most of our kids are lacking. They are very good in science and math, but this is one of the important stuffs they have to learn to survive in the real world, I guess. Uh, I have a couple more questions to ask. How many sentences you would suggest for intro and conclusion? Are we just restating the thesis?
I would say 3 to 5 sentences would be best, both for the intro and the conclusion to kind of get all the points across. And you are restating your thesis, but you're rephrasing what you said, essentially.
Okay, so it's not verbatim same, but it'll be a different way of putting it, right? Um, how can we practice formal essays without any research? I guess that contest, no, you're just given a topic and asked to write, right?
Um, Definitely stay up to date on current events. I think that definitely helped last year when I was writing my essay. Be aware of what's going on in the world right now so that you can refer to that in your essay.
It's also nice that a lot of the North-South competition essays are very opinion based. So there's a very broad spectrum of reasons that you can use to answer the question. So for the most part, these questions are tailored for common experiences or to use arguments that people can relate to or the judges can relate to that don't need a lot of evidence. But like Nivriti said, it's good to keep up to date so you can say you don't know much about the topic. You can reference something that's happening in real life that may not relate to you directly.
Should we always support our argument, or can we say that the other argument is still valid and say that they are not wrong in an essay?
Well, if you're going to follow that up with rebuttal, so if you do want to, concede the validity of counter arguments, but you also want to say, okay, so here's why this argument is also valid, but this is why my argument is maybe like is what I'm arguing for. This is what I believe. So if you're going to give those counter arguments but also refute them, I think it's valuable to include them. But if you're just going to, put those other arguments in there without really like saying anything else about them, I think it can dilute the validity of your own argument, and so you really wouldn't want to do that for no reason. So if you're going to include counter arguments, make sure you refute them and explain why yours is the one that you believe or why it's better.
Um, I do not have any more questions being asked. Um, thank you guys for all your time and efforts you put in to prepare for this session. I'm just going to leave you with a final thoughts about your experience in essay writing. Can Navriti can start.
Yeah, definitely. I think I've had a great time, especially with the essay writing contest. Last year, I know that I went to nationals for my sister, and then my mom also just registered me for the national essay writing contest. And I don't know, it was nice to write out the prompt, and it definitely gave me a good head start, I think, for writing college essays that I did over the summer, or it put me in that sort of headspace.
Thank you.
I think I was somebody who was very resistant to essay writing at first, so I know how a lot of people feel when they think it's boring or something like that. But it's extremely important, and I realized that through high school, and also I think I became a lot better at essay writing through college essays, and I also think by writing you can learn a lot about yourself. So college essays are very personally reflective. you're trying to put yourself out there, but when you compile all your experiences together and then try to make them a cohesive story, you learn a lot about yourself too through writing. Um, and then, as I said before, essay writing supports you in every other style of communication. So it's an important skill. It may not be the most exciting thing in the world, but it's definitely something that should be given more priority.
Yeah,
Um,
truly.
Yeah,
Truly, like essay writing is a way to structure your thoughts and put pen to paper and really just get creative with everything. And it really helps you not just structure your thoughts, but be creative in the way that you're getting your point across. So it's really foundational and really fundamental. And I'm so glad that I did NSF essay writing contest starting in third grade. It definitely helped me learn a lot about myself, and it was an insightful experience. So would definitely recommend.
I think like I've always like loved like writing short stories or like creative writing, fictional writing, all that stuff. And I think like when I was younger, what that really made me do is that I was a really rambly writer where I would go on and I would just write a lot and it wouldn't really be organized and it wouldn't be concise. And then when you get to high school and you have to write college essays, they have these really specific word counts, or in the workplace when you have like technical documents with like specifications, you want it to be short and concise. You don't want the reader to have to look for the important information. I think essay writing actually helped me organize my thoughts. Writing in a time frame helped me lower my word count. Actually, write what was important instead of just like going on and writing like everything that I thought about. Write in an organized structure. Make sure that I'm getting the thoughts across that need to be gotten across, and just sort of like bringing it all together in a cohesive way. And I think essay writing was really helpful for me in that way.
Yeah, I want to mention one more thing that's already been talked about quite a bit, but really emphasizing an outline. You want to go into an essay knowing what it's going to be about. And it's okay if that changes over time as you write the essay, but make sure to record the change in the outline so you know after you so you know what you're going to write about, and then once you actually put it on paper, it's just filling in the blanks and making it look fancy. The the outline is probably the most important thing for me in my process of writing essays and papers and documents and things like that. Um, and I was again somebody who was very initially resistant to it. As Sai said, I was also a person who used to kind of just write what was on top of my head, and then it would come out disorganized and unstructured. Um, so definitely, I want to emphasize writing an outline. But that's the most important part in my writing process for sure.
thank you everybody. And I have to apologize to all our YouTube audience. We had some technical glitch in the beginning, and then we had to start and missed a few minutes in the beginning. I'm trying to get the whole video uploaded into YouTube before um, we release the link to you guys. But we did, like I said, this is the sixth of the uh, six MTP sessions, and we never had any much issues in the beginning in the previous ones. So I don't know what really happened, but I thank each one of you, and Vitri, Sai, Lalitha, and Lahari for all your efforts and behind the scene coordination to get this thing going and all those things. So um, I hope they encourage you to participate in this essay writing competitions. It's not just for NSF or anything. It's your lifetime school, college essays, and everything. It's going to come and help you out throughout, which every one of them stated. Thanks for joining. We will send you the link tomorrow. And then, like I said, this is the last of our MTP series. So we wish everybody a great success in your regional contests. And then, no, hope to, you will all make it to the nationals too. Uh, and good luck to all of you. Uh, as I said, we have just one more webinar scheduled for next and the coming Saturday, but this is not about the contest, but it's about Leadership skills and athletic activity, how you can combine those two and then build a complete personality. There are a few youngsters who have went through that process are going to talk to you about it um, coming Saturday at 12 noon Eastern. So please look for our announcements, register and attend them. And then we thank all of you to be for being a part of this. We will, after that session, we will end these webinars for next couple of months for you to leave you alone preparing for the contest and then doing all those things, and then we'll come back with the new ones. And thanks, guys. And then Niviti has already sent me that presentation material, so I can include that with a follow-up mail tomorrow. And then we'll be in touch. Thank you. Yeah, let me end the session, okay?